So welcome. What we're working with today is trauma, the way the brain works with trauma, and the way that we can use constellations to work with two different types of after effects of trauma. In one after effect of trauma, we can have the experience that the memory is very intrusive. That we had, for example, there was a dog when we were 3 years old. The dog was incredibly scary and it came after us and we were barely saved. And ever since then, we've been terrified of dogs. That would be like, and then we never really had another experience with a dog after that. That would be a single incident trauma where you know that the memory is intrusive. The definition of post-traumatic stress disorder is the experience of having memories surface without permission, without our consent. We're run by the resurfacing of memories. And because the way that the brain holds traumatic memory is very different from the way that the brain holds regular memory, the brain does not actually timestamp the difficult memory. I said that with trauma, our memory can be infinity. It's like we can step into an endless time loop where the memory is still alive. Because the brain has these two different, very different ways of holding memory. So let's identify the two brain areas that hold the memory just so that you can kind of locate them. And I'll use people to represent. If two people who don't mind being filmed for a little moment, so I can, Oleg, come up, be the amygdala, and Magdalene, come up and be the hippocampus. Oleg, you stand here, and Magdalene, you stand here. Are they in the thing? Okay, so Oleg is the amygdala. And as the amygdala, he is responsible for the aliveness of memory. Smell goes directly to Oleg. It does not stop, does not pass go. No stoppage points between the entry of smell into the nostrils and the accessing of memory. So if the person that Oleg belongs to, let's say both of them belong to Sarah. Let's say Sarah has been in a terrible car accident. The screeching of brakes will go right into the amygdala to alert Sarah that something is terribly wrong, that an accident could be happening. Or let's say Sarah is in a car. This actually happened. I was in a terrible car accident. I was in a car afterwards with a bunch of young men who were not thinking, and they were driving as fast as they could toward a train. There was an access road that I didn't know about that went to turn to the left. So they screeched around this corner, but we're heading towards this train. I'm just screaming in the back seat. You know, before the accident, I would have thought, oh, they're just having fun. They're just boys having fun. Of course, they're not going to ram us into the speeding train. But the tissue of protection was torn. That's what happens with trauma, is that the tissue of protection becomes torn by the experience. And so all of a sudden we go directly into danger. So if we've grown up in a home with domestic violence, then as soon as somebody's voice begins to raise, the amygdala is like, up, danger. Now, here's the hippocampus. The hippocampus is a very different organ. The hippocampus actually wraps around the amygdala and shares much of the memory, gets shared between the amygdala and the hippocampus. But the hippocampus knows what time it is. So here's the amygdala, the smell, the sound of screeching brakes, the smell of spilled diesel fuel. With this one's like, oh, that happened when I was 16 years old. We know the time. So in the initial experience of the car accident, the amygdala is ruling that memory and every cue, every sensory cue that goes along with that traumatic memory. And then as we do some healing work, the hippocampus begins to be able to regulate. It's like the screeching brakes come and there's a flash, the amygdala flashes, but this one is on board now. And this one can say, oh, that's from when you were 16. No wonder that was so difficult. the identification of the memory in time is a hugely important part of the healing process. Sometimes I feel like the words are trying to meet what I know, and I'm not sure that they're conveying it. How am I doing so far?
Very well.
Okay, yeah.
When you're talking about the tissue of protection,
The tissue of protection.
is that also between the hippocampus and the amygdala?
You know, in a way it's innocence. That tissue of protection is like innocence. It's like, it's a place where the amygdala has not been alerted. The hippocampus is still doing fine. The hippocampus is like, we're in a car full of boys, of course they're playing, we're not in danger. Whereas, you know, once the innocence has been stripped away, then it's like the everything can become dangerous, but in particular anything that's connected to the dangerous event.
And you see it distinctly as an energetic form as opposed to physiological?
Both really. It's almost like when we begin to touch this, you may feel it when we do our demo. It's almost like when the amygdala has hold of the memory, the amygdala is like got a force field around the memory where where this one has no power. And I think energetically, like bioenergetically within the brain, it's true. There's some sort of lock that the amygdala has. You can almost touch it when we touch the memories. And then as we begin to make them explicit, as we begin to turn and acknowledge like each of the elements that the amygdala is carrying, then that force field diminishes so that the hippocampus can go, oh yes, that was a trauma memory. And of course I would have that reaction, but that was when I was 16. Yeah. Yes?
Sorry, I got disturbed. I didn't hear, I know it's probably on tape what you said about the hippocampus, but I missed what you said, just what it's called.
The hippocampus, there are two forms of memory in the brain. One is called implicit memory, and the implicit memory is the felt sense memory. So it includes both the intensity of trauma memory, but it also includes this sort of foggy sense of self that's not a clear sense of self, that's impacted by the difficult experiences. And then the hippocampus reigns over the explicit memory. All of the facts, the clarity of our autobiography, that in 1962, you were not born in 1962, I was. Sarah was born in 1962. In 1962, Sarah was born in Fairbanks, Alaska. The hippocampus knows this. That in 1967, my father started building a house and we moved from one house to another. The hippocampus knows this. What the amygdala knows is that Sarah's mother had dissociative identity disorder, but the amygdala doesn't know that as words or facts. The amygdala knows that as a felt sense of the fracturedness of the mama. Is this making sense? You see how there are these two different, physically within our brain, there are two different systems of memory. And these are the reigning figures of those two different systems. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else I would like to say about you two. That as we heal, I think what is really important is that these two come together. That as we heal, what happens is we still have the capacity to feel deeply and to feel deeply on behalf of ourselves. And we also have the capacity to contextualize and bring the memories into order. As we heal, we're not taking away the amygdala. The amygdala is not a bad guy. The amygdala carries the life energy of our lives, while the hippocampus gives that life energy structure. So as we heal, we become more and more alive in our experiences and less paralyzed. Thank you both.
Thank you. A very interesting experience. I became a child.
Do we have that? Can we hear?
I'm just going to need a few minutes.
Okay. Go ahead and speak. Go ahead and speak. Come close to me. You can hear on my mic. What was the experience?
It was like I became a child, and I became very quiet.
Very interesting.
Because there is a big mother, she can save me, she can help me. I can be quiet.
When this one came close. Beautiful. Is there anything you want to say?
I kind of like feel that, I want to protect him. Yeah,
Yes.
that kind of feeling.
Oh,
Yeah.
very sweet. Thank you both for being my brain parts. I release you from your roles. Okay. So what's important when we're doing the work is to begin part of the healing journey is the capacity to understand that we are more than one part of our brain at a time. That we are simultaneously our amygdala, and simultaneously we're the part of the brain that turns toward the amygdala with warmth and understanding. And that part is the prefrontal cortex, which brings an intention for care, an intention for acknowledgement, an intention for resonance. Because, and this is I think the great secret of constellation work, humans are more settled by being understood than they are by anything else. Humans have the experience, humans are finally made to live in social situations where the people around them understand them, where we make sense to the communities and the families and the groups that we live in. We don't need to change anything for anyone else to make their lives better. We simply need to accompany them. And this is what constellations do with so much power and beauty. They allow not just the one-on-one when we're doing them in groups, they allow not just the one-on-one connection that happens in a healing friendship or a healing partnership or a healing relationship with a therapist. Rather, they allow an entire group of people to step into an expressed and embodied resonance with the experience of the person who's receiving the work. And then, of course, we have the added bonus of, as we step in, we begin to understand parts of our own experience and parts of the human experience even more clearly. So constellations, like nothing else, is a kind of a multiplying generator of healing. I've never experienced anything else that generates a field of understanding with so much beauty that can involve so many people. So I'm deeply committed to and love constellations very much.